I think it's time we get started. If you can add your names to the agenda, the link is in the chat. But otherwise, we can get started. Do we have any new members joining this meeting for the first time today?
Yes, we do have. There is
Oh,
one. It's
nice.
me. Yeah, hi. My name is Rob Ulbrich. I'm working for Mercedes-Benz actually, and joining as a member of the company. And yep, we're interested basically in contributing for Flyte. Well, to give something back to the community, but also, to be honest, also for our own use cases. But I think it hopefully will be beneficial to all users.
Amazing. Yeah, that's how it usually goes with open source, right? Scratch your own itch, give it back to the community when you can. This is awesome. Thank you. Welcome. All right. Let me share my screen. Share screen. Yes. All right. Zoom plays a little. Can you guys confirm if you're seeing my screen? Is the Zoom all right? Cool. Okay. In that case, let's go. Let's go take a look at new RFCs. I know that we have at least one that should be here, right, E? Where is it? Wait, I know that you wrote it. Why
I
isn't
wrote
it
one.
showing
I'm
up?
not sure. I don't know if I added it to this.
How
Do
do
you,
we add to this?
that I'm not sure.
Okay, it's
It's PR 5103. If that helps.
I know it was called RFC. It's still called RFC. All right. Um, let's figure out how to add this here. Oh, it starts with Flyte, then 5103. Oh, nice. Yes, great. We should probably rename this E. But just can you give us, quick rundown? Doesn't have to go like super deep. Like we're gonna do the job of renaming this, make sure that it's more legible. But yeah, give us a TLDR so that people can at least have some context before they jump in with some feedback.
Sure. Um, the the context is basically we've had an issue for a while with map tasks, and I feel like map tasks from users are getting larger and larger. And we've also seen an issue with like not map but like lists of very large like relatively large lists of relatively large data classes that get turned into structs. These get encoded directly into the literal, they don't get offloaded. And we've run into, many people have run into size issues, and they keep having to bump like the various gRPC message size limits that we have in Flyte. This is a proposal to basically offload that. So at some limit, especially when, so maybe just starting on the Flyte propeller side, when Flyte propeller is assembling a list output that is the output of a array node map task, it will, if it detects that it's too large, it will offload the actual list, and it will offload it to the output, like what we call metadata bucket, not to the user data bucket. Yeah, and then downstream tasks will have to know how to basically dereference that.
Cool.
Tatum
Thank
is on.
you. Yeah, no, I think this makes sense. It's an official RFC. If people have more use cases they're envisioning, maybe they can jump in. But otherwise, the plan seems straightforward and covers this use case.
Yeah,
Beautifully.
I'll add more to it today. I think we should call out like what people are doing right now, and I think I spoke with one member of the FE team of the front end team yesterday, and I feel like there may be changes needed. So we'll fill that out as well.
Awesome. Let's leave time to the other members of the community to engage in this. But thank you. This is great. Yeah, let's fix the title. This is more easier to find, but cool. Let's keep going. It's an official RFC. It's in review. Let's go through the usual process. All right. Do we have any working group updates? I'm not sure. We were
There's a working
tracking.
group that collects the status of the plugins, and there has been this form that was sent around. Not sure if there's an update, but that's the only one that could have an update, I guess.
Fabio, can you link the form here? I saw it floating around, but I haven't opened it in a while.
I need to search if I find it. I didn't create the form, I just filled it in.
Yeah. Cool. Notice that you have the agenda open, so please just drop the link there. All right. Let's continue. We have a bunch of new ideas in the incubator that were proposed last week by our new member, and we should probably have. Oh, nice. One is even getting a lot of votes. That's pretty awesome. Okay, Robert, the floor is yours. Do you want to guide us through these four RFC ideas that you're proposing?
Yeah, sure.
We can go in any order that you want, even this one. Right?
Yeah, maybe go from the easiest one. Yeah, that's from the easiest one to the one which takes most effort, I guess.
Okay, cool. I'm
Okay.
assuming that is the easiest one.
Yeah, it's also not too much written there. So every Flyte project can have a description, but as far as I'm concerned, we can only set it via the Flyte control CLI. And I guess it would be beneficial for people at least we can tell for us, it would be nice if we could provide the description maybe already in the Helm chart when we provide some initial projects. It would be nice to have also the description there. So that way, it would be an easy way of how to properly initialize the Flyte installation. And have it, for example,
for the default projects, right?
Yeah, the default projects that we can have in the Helm chart. And it would be nice if we could be able to set the project description, having information there about the contact persons, or who's the owner, or what team's the owner, what they do with it. So yeah, I guess will be more or less like a small contribution, I guess.
Got it. No, yeah, I think this makes sense. I think this would also benefit from having a higher exposition in the UI also. Like people could, I don't know, let's dream a little, even search for it.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, there's not much more to tell about it.
Oh, nice.
I think it's a good idea. We really tried to avoid using flight control for anything creating the deployment. We really like to have it in infrastructure as code. So we don't use descriptions because we can't have them in infrastructure as code. So I love this one.
Cool. That's I think That's amazing. Let's not even turn this into like a proper RFC. Like you can go straight to like, small set of PRs, Robert, if you want.
So no need for a proper RFC there?
Yeah, I think for this one, no. This, as you said, like this is small enough. I think it's a great feature.
Okay, good to know. Just note that down.
I mean, we can, engage in the incubator itself, but
cool.
This one is I think it's great.
Okay.
All right. Let's go to the not so easy one.
Oh, I can't think of a song about this one.
Sorry?
No, please go ahead.
Yeah. So some feedback that we always get from our customers is, or the users basically of the Flyte platform who do trainings, they say like, it says running. The task says it's running, but nothing. It remains like that for hours and nothing happens, despite it should actually be finished within a couple of minutes. And sometimes it's that that for some reason the node was initialized, or there's a node and the pod was created, but it cannot start. For example, it can be because in our case, we are using GKE and we are using GCS Fuse. In some use cases, that means you are mounting a GCS bucket, which is similar to an S3 bucket object storage. You mount it as a POSIX file system, and there's some a little bit weird construction with a sidecar container involved in it. And if something goes wrong because you, for example, do not have permissions for the actual bucket to mount it, then it's written to the Kubernetes events. But so you can, when you run kube control describe pod, you see what's going on, but you will not see it here in the Flyte UI. And most users, at least in our case, are not that much familiar with kube control, so they would most likely rely just on the UI. And yeah, well, it just doesn't say what's happening because it seems like it doesn't take the Kubernetes events into account. And that would be nice. It also looks like, for me, maybe I didn't look too closely enough into the code, but it looks like it's being this circled red, this box basically is being fed from the database, and it looks like it's not updated.
Yeah,
so
I can
there's
tell you why it's not updated.
Yeah. Please.
Can you scroll down a bit? So I have, wait, let me post this. But I was typing the message. I'll just post it and finish it later. So the problem is that Flyte Propeller publishes events about phase changes to admin, and it does this only when something changes. So at the end of every iteration in this, how's the loop called, reconciliation loop, it will check, do we have a new event, do we have a new reason, and then it bumps something called the phase version. And if the phase version is not bumped, it does not publish a new event. And the only plugin for which these phase versions are consistently bumped is the pod plugin. The other plugins don't do this. So when the state, like the phase is pending, then but the reason changes, like you get a new event that's still pending, the pod plugin will publish that again, but the others just don't. That's the reason why it doesn't update in the database.
And I noticed that you were trying to run a Spark task here, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But there are more problems to this. I have a PR open that tries to solve this in a different way, because we also run this we run everything on GKE, and the events on the CRD, they don't necessarily tell you why it's not starting. They might tell you it's not starting, but they will not give you the reason, like we don't have resources, or maybe there's a toleration that we don't have. Like you'll only see this on the pod of the Spark task. You will not see it on the Spark task CRD itself. And yes, it should be fixed that we get the updates in the top right corner. But for non-pod plugins, I think the information is not enough, because you will not see GCE out of resources. You'll not see this in the event of a Spark task. You'll just not see it there.
But maybe to add something like what might help, because like we're also doing that on GKE, we have the link to Google Cloud Console to like the pod view there directly on the right side configured for us. So our engineers, like at least the ones that are a bit more familiar with like Kubernetes, can then look up the events there and makes it at least a little bit more transparent.
Yeah, and the PR that I have open here, Dennis, goes in exactly this direction because we have this link configured, but currently you only see it when it's running, and when it's running, you don't need it. So there's this chicken egg problem. And this PR, I talked about it a while ago, Eduardo, maybe you remember.
Yeah.
It modifies task logs in the way that you can configure them to already show up when the task is still pending or to be hidden when the task completed. Like the hiding part, we wouldn't need to solve this problem here. We would need that for Flyte Interactive, for example. But where we are going with this is with this PR, and also have the hiding part working now, by the way, I just need to finish this up, is that, for example, we have a log link that sends you to the Google Kubernetes engine section of the pod where you see the events already in the pending phase. And we can show this link also for plugins that create a CRD, which then creates pods. So that means, for example, for Kubeflow distributed training tasks, we will add another log link that will send you to the Kubernetes engine section, and there you can see the events of the individual pods. And Flyte will never be able to give you those events because Flyte does not track those pods; it just tracks the Kubeflow job. And as part of this PR, I'll also fix the issue here that the events are not updated because it's a requirement for that.
Okay, yeah, interesting. So means like you would suggest not to follow up this idea that I provided because you're saying, well, doesn't really make sense. Rather provide a link there. And
your proposal is to update the events, right?
Yeah.
That's something that I'll fix in this PR.
Okay, fine.
I think, if I'm not mistaken. But if you click on the line there, I think when you click on where I say see here, the other link.
Oh, you mean the other one?
The other one, that sends us to the pod plugin. It took me also a while to find this part. But here we bump the phase version of the plugin state. And if we don't do this consistently, then we don't publish a new event. And that's why it's out of date for you, for the Spark task. If you go to the Spark plugin, you will not find phase info this version and then a +1. You'll just not find it there. So you always only get the first event of a certain state, but it's never updated if the reason changes. So if we do this here consistently, then your problem should be solved.
The thing is, it not only happens for Spark plugin, but it also happens for like a regular task, container task. So we also have it there that, or we often have seen it like people were trying to mount a GCS bucket with GCS views that they were not allowed to, and it also remained in that state. They couldn't make out why it wouldn't run. And only if we were looking like at the Kubernetes events in the GCP console, in the GKE console, then you could clearly see, or using the scribe pod, kube controller scribe pod, you could see what was going on.
But is that because you'd see errors in the sidecar, Robert?
No.
Like,
no, they actually.
It is interesting because like you should have seen the events in the case of container tasks, right?
No, I didn't. That's weird. I didn't.
Yeah,
see them.
It is weird. Like we should follow up on that, but yeah.
So it looks like to me what ends up in this small window on the right side pane of the UI is not necessarily a Kubernetes event, but like it's called, if you just say if you say kube control get pod, it's under the point status.
Yeah.
Those information under the point status, and events they are also linked to a certain pod, but they don't show up. They are not shown up on the status, but you only see them when, for example, when you get like a detailed description of the pod, then they show up. And many of those error messages or error reasons are being only published to the events and not to the status of the pod.
Can I add one thing? Hey everyone. So I think so. A couple of things. One of the reasons events are not automatically propagating there, I guess, is that we have seen this in larger clusters. Kubernetes events can slow down Kubernetes, because they require the job controller to be posting to Kube API a whole lot. So we've seen a lot of large clusters where people disable events just for scale. So I'm not sure what scale are you planning to take this on, but especially on if you're creating tens of thousands of pods concurrently, you will start seeing issues in kube server, and you may want to do that. So I think it is actually more consistent and reliable to look at the container status within the pod status. And I think I might be mistaken, but I think they will get updated when a mount fails, or the image pool is failing, or the container is definitely when the container is restarting. I'm not sure about those other status. So I would look into the status part and see if the status of the container changes. And I think then we can pull that up in. I thought we already do in the reason, and if we do, then you will start getting into that if block that Xavier pointed out that will automatically bump the phase version and publish a new task event. But I would confirm that. I don't know if do you know if the status section of the pod changes when you get into these failure modes?
They don't know. That's the problem.
Does the container task use the pod plugin? It must, right?
It does, yeah. I see. So yeah, I guess you can try to look at the events if they do exist, and make up some reason based on that, and then publish that in. It will get published. But I'm just like word of caution, I guess, that once the cluster gets large enough, the workload gets large enough, you will want to disable events, and then you will be back into this mode where you don't lose the visibility.
That's a good hint from you, Haitam, because we actually planning to like roll it out for bigger audience. Yeah, that's in a kind of beta production state. But yeah, maybe I don't know if you're gonna have like 10,000 of pods at the same time, but at least more than we have currently. And that's a good hint actually of those events that it will slow down the whole Kubernetes cluster.
Yeah, 10,000 is probably okay. Talking like tens if you get to 100,000 pods, especially on burst, like if they're not just distributed over the day, if they get launched in close proximity is when you start seeing spikes in latency, in just the API to even create a new pod slows down. Yeah. So we probably need some more thinking here about how do we surface other issues with pods. I think linking to the GKE page is probably like a very low hanging fruit thing to do here. And while maybe we do more thinking about how do we show that.
I personally never use this box at the top right, because if when I want to figure out whether something will start or this just slow, or whether this has no chance of it starting, I'm looking for the keywords triggered scale up or not triggered scale up. But I'm not sure if these are also available in other cloud providers, but in GKE it will tell you triggered scale up and then a reason, or not triggered scale up and the reason. And the box here only shows the reason. But for us, the reason is a gigantic blob of text that lists, I don't know, like 60 node pools with taints, and at a glance, you will not figure out whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, what you're seeing there. And the keywords triggered scale up and not triggered scale up are not shown in this box here. You will see, like, you need to do kube control describe pod, and then you get this table at the bottom, right? And then one column is triggered scale up and the other column is the reason. This thing shows only the reason, but I would want to see the triggered scale up or not triggered scale up.
Yep. Yeah, those are things we also we used to have problems, but we provided already SDK, so usually, so it's hard now for users to misconfigure tasks to not have a node.
Yeah, but even if you do that, like sometimes the GCP region is just out of resources.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also what we experience quite often in Europe West 4, right? Because those are the only ones who have GPU accelerated nodes in Europe, as far as I'm aware.
Got it. I don't know. Let's maybe discuss this one here in the RxC incubator a bit, because we also have this problem and they have this PR open with the low-hanging fruit of linking to GKE. I think that will go a long way once we have it. Just need another train ride for a few hours to finish this up. I always do this when I'm right on trains. And we can also then share or basically document these log links that we configure in GKE that immediately send you to the right panel. I think that will solve your problem of allowing engineers to figure out why their pod isn't starting. Maybe you can take another look at figuring out whether for container tasks or it's really not updating. Maybe just paste an example there of what you see when you do kube control describe pod and what you see in the box. And then we can also check whether this goes away when we bump the phase version on all plugins consistently, which I'll do as part of the PR. Yeah.
Yeah, fine.
Amazing. Thank you. Fabio, can you ping me on Slack when you think this is good to take a first pass, or should I do it now?
No, give me like another week or so.
Okay, cool.
This PR, like I coded on it purely on train rides, and I'll have another one I think next week, and that will be enough to clean it up, and then I'll send it to you.
Awesome. I also have some questions. I'll follow up with you offline, but thanks. This looks great. Robert, yeah, two more.
Yeah, the next one is also hope at least an easy one. We also wanted to use notifications via email, and as far as we are concerned, you can only send emails using AWS SES service or using SendGrid. Both are services that you need to pay for, obviously. And at least in our case, SES we are not supposed to use. But many companies have their own SMTP service that could be used for sending mails. I mean, and it would be nice to be able to configure this like plain SMTP server for sending emails. So this is currently, as far as I was reading code, it's not supported by Flyte, so we would like to introduce it. So one more option for sending mails by providing an SMTP server. It should be able to encrypt with TLS, and we should also be able to provide credentials. That's basically some of what we want to do.
I for one, I'll say two things. One, not the first time that people ask for a feature like this.
Okay.
There are, ranging from even like sending notifications from pods all the way to like configuring other backends for actually sending, the notifications like what you're proposing here. I'm much more in favor of like small targeted feature like this that works 100% of the time. So obviously the devil is in the details, how we can make this work for a larger portion of the population. If you want to invest time into like trying to come up with a like an interface, like a subsystem that can like cover also the SMTPKs, you have my vote. Please go fix this for everyone's gonna love you, or a lot of people will love you for that.
Yeah, I think it will not be too hard, because there's already a good interface that would already allow us to add additional email providers. Yeah, I think it's not too hard actually. It's not too disruptive to add one more provider there.
That's very cool. I think this is another example of maybe a smaller feature. We shouldn't really need to go through the full like RFC,
Okay.
Process. Just we can iterate on this on a PR, like a series of PRs. All right.
Nice. Yeah, good to know. Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Bernard raised his hand.
Yeah. I'm just for a bit of context, maybe, on why a few things are the way they are, and I think also where we would like to see this. So generally, is email your ideal way of getting notifications, or would you also, because for us personally, for example, we would rather use a webhook, something like a Slack webhook, or I'm not sure. And that's something Fabio and I are looking into. I've been out last week, but kind of that's another avenue that we're kind of looking after, because most people want to use webhooks, right? You want to have this show up in a channel somewhere often. So that's on the list. As for AWS SES, I think you should also already be able to use PubSub. I'm not sure if it's supported in this case as well, but generally, maybe for why there is a queue in between is to make sure that I think Flyte admin doesn't get stuck in just sending notifications. So you basically don't want to block out Flyte admin, as far as I understand, with sending notifications. So it's a bit of an async mechanism. So we basically push into the queue and then pull from it one by one, so that it's a more of an async situation.
That's fine. I mean, PubSub is supported. SES is the simple emailing service, and you were talking about a simple notification service, SNS.
Sorry. Okay, that was my bad. I haven't looked into this in a while.
Not a problem.
And on GCP as well. So we are. Yeah. But yeah, so I think generally that's where the direction is going, and we would love to do this also for Pajama, to have email notifications, because it would be nice. SNS, SQS, yeah, SQS I think is the queuing system, right? So there's also work in that direction in case you wanna contribute there. But if this is a small fix and you wanna put it in, I think everybody's open in that direction. Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so yeah, took up that we don't need a full RFC for that. So as soon as we can plan it into our sprints, you will then get a pull request, hopefully not too far in the future.
Amazing.
Like in next weeks.
If you want to link to this work around the webhook, Bernard, on this RFC, just to for future us when we're searching for these RFC incubator ideas, people, if they want to track back, trace back where we were.
I'm also trying to write up a short RFC on kind of what the webhook notifications look like, because there's a lot of eventing systems already, and I think probably not questions around kind of what eventing system to use, and do we want this as in the notification sub thing, but then it doesn't really fit. So I think there's a bunch of technicalities that we need to figure out. So yeah, trying to get that up so that we can figure out a way. Maybe we can also, if we have time, we can talk about it today as well. I'm happy
to. No need to, I don't want to put you on the spot. If you have, I think for this idea, this would benefit from actually going through a proper RFC, given the number of edge cases and things to consider. All right.
Also answering Bernhard's question. Actually, for us, emails notification is okay, but actually having webhooks would be better. But yeah, the way to have those is much longer, so we would be fine for the time with email. At least in our use case. Thanks.
Let's,
now comes the biggest one. Yep. So at least in our use case, we are planning to have one Flyte platform and to onboard multiple teams, some company internal teams, but also external teams. And those teams should not necessarily be able to see the work of each other. So right now we can already make sure to log out with Flyte. We can already make sure to log out people who are not meant to be there at all via the authentication mechanism. And that's good to have, because we also at some stage will make it available via the internet. So we don't want to have everyone being able to submit workflows there or see what's going on. But the problem is right now, at least standard Flyte, that once you are authenticated, you can go into every project, submit a workflow in a job in any project, any domain, whatever you want to do. And when you want to use one Flyte installation in a multi-tenant way, then it would be nice if we could, by some means, isolate the single Flyte projects from each other. That means when you log in, by some means, maybe by checking the claims of an identity token, or yeah, is it the, yeah, I think identity token. Checking the claims, it could then map you to certain projects, and you would only get access to all those projects you are assigned to. So you would not be able then to see running workflows in projects you're not assigned to, and also not being able to submit workflows or tasks in those projects. So
if I read this correctly, yeah, you are essentially looking for RBAC.
Not really, I would say, because not really. That's what comes in the limits. When it doesn't necessarily have to be like a full role-based authentication model, so we don't need to differentiate between different roles. So whoever logs, like within one project, it's fine if someone has permissions to read and submit workflows. That's okay, but just so there is no role like viewer, admin, or editor required, but all we need is basically an isolation within the team. So at least we want to make sure that the people who are in one team cannot look into and cannot peek into other teams or submit workflows there. So it's not a fully RBAC system, I would say, because it's it's not based on roles, but more like, let's say, maybe horizontal.
And how are you envisioning, like, how to assign these users to like the different projects? Like how that work?
Good point. I have like several ideas. For example, when we log in via like usually login happens via most often via OIDC or OAuth. So you usually have an identity token that has claims, and you could tell, like, once login happens, please look inside the value of a certain claim. And if you find that value in there, you are assigned to that team. If there's another value there that belongs to the other team, you are a member of that team. That would be like a very easy approach. A more harder approach would be to but that would be really, I think, a lot of work. You could also, of course, when you're getting into actually an RBAC system in the end, you could have the UI where you can like assign users, but that would be, I think, at least from the UI perspective and management perspective, a lot of coding work. But easiest, as mentioned, would be check the claims in an identity token, and then based on that, assign or provide access to certain projects. And we could easily, I think, quite easily configure that mapping in the Flyte configuration.
Again, every time that I see, you know, auth involved, I'm like, all right, let's be let's take this slowly. As you can imagine, that's not the first time that people claim, I'll use that word, claim for a feature like this that will provide, you know, better isolation. We have never found a simple way to add that to Flyte. But if you want to hammer out like more the details of like how this would work and how this could work like alongside, you know, different identity providers and like even different cloud providers, if that would be great.
Okay, so it's, I guess, because this is quite a big feature, I suppose we definitely need an RFC here. So, but in general, you would say it's worthy to create an RFC and then continue discussing based on this.
It is it's not a small feature by any means.
No.
Even if this cut that you're providing here, like you just want to provide like project isolation, right? But yeah, let's work out the kinks. Like I think this, if you're willing to invest in this, this is one great feature, but not easy or small by any means.
Yeah, it's not a quick win. But like I can tell you from our perspective, it's yeah, it's kind of mission critical for us, to be honest. Yeah, because as I mentioned in the introduction to this feature, it's pretty important for us to be able to isolate different teams to isolate teams from each other. Otherwise, we will get issues with or we get issues with the guys looking after data privacy latest at some stage. Of course, what you can also do not having this feature is to have one Flyte instance per team. Also possible, would also work, but yeah, well, managing this is also not big fun considering ingresses you have to manage and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, we would work, you know, on like these features that would help like everyone, but we have to have a dose of pragmatism. Sure. We've seen people do this, what you just proposed, just like segregate the projects by having like separate Flyte deployments. I would love to have this in OSS though. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, let's give it a go. We have some resources and we can give it a go. Maybe it works, maybe not, but let's try, huh?
Cool. So yeah, get cranking on that RFC and we can discuss more firmly there. All right.
All right. Yeah, so we will provide an RFC then.
Thank you. I think this will be great. But again, I also have this seems quite large in terms of features feeling, but it will be a cool thing to have in Flyte.
Agreed. All right, dude, this is awesome. Thank you for all the ideas. Some I'm assuming we're gonna see PRs very soon, and some, you know, we'll need a larger discussion.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. I think we still have some time. Oh yeah, like a couple more minutes. So Bernhard, let's talk quick about webhook notifications. What are you thinking?
Yeah, so I think one thing, and I'll still write the RFC no matter what the outcome is here, because I think it might be worth. And Fabio, feel free to jump in because you've done, you know, most of the work. But my question being, maybe for me as an overview, because I haven't worked with the events system much, how many different event systems are there, and which one would be the preferred one to use first question, and kind of somewhat orthogonal. Do we even need an event system, or like should we have a version where users can not use PubSub because they know they will only have a small Flyte installation, and it might be nice for them to just use Flyte admin to call webhooks directly? Or can anyone see a big danger there, right? Because if you have, say, on the order of 100 workflows an hour, then probably those 100 webhook calls won't slow down much. Yeah.
I mean, I feel having an option to not use, like people run it now even in a sandbox locally, right? There are people who do that. And for those, not having an external queue system would be nice. I think we could have a discussion whether it should be opt-in or opt-out. Probably should be opt-in. But I guess at least for the local sandbox, it would be nice to make it a default there and not make it a default for the Helm values that we provide in the repository. Yeah. That's my opinion.
Yeah. If someone, there's a PubSub emulator that you can also use locally. I've tried this. So if you work on a train every once in a while, as I also do, it's nice not to have to rely on the cloud so much. So I have made it work with the PubSub emulator. But yeah, so any strong opinions on we definitely need a queue, or could there be a world without? And I haven't looked into the code on how this would look in terms of wiring, whether it would be completely crazy or a completely diversion path.
Without having looking at the code, I'm with you. Like I love the pragmatism of like, hey, making this opt-in for like the small to maybe medium case. But if you look around in Flyte, like overall, like we strive for correctness in most of our decisions, which in this case really implies like scale.
Yeah, and no, by no means. I think I've run Flyte at a fairly large scale, and I think there it definitely makes sense to not overwhelm admin with these notification calls. The second piece, I think there are different notification systems, right, at the moment, or different event systems. Sorry.
I can maybe answer that because I talked with Kevin about it. So there's the one that emits email events, and there's the external events one, and the implementation that Kevin started for the webhook event or notification system. That one uses the external events and not the email events because just of the information that he wanted to include in the notification that is sent. And back when I looked at this, we discussed it would be nice to, and there's the cloud events one. That's even another one. Yeah, that's the third one, I guess. And we discussed that it would be nice to unify that a bit and have the webhook notification system share an interface with the email notification system, but it would require refactoring the email notification system. So I guess one question in the RFC is it worth doing that, or will they be parallel? Like, will they stand next to each other? Why have them? I don't have the answer to that, but I guess it's a question that came up when I discussed it with Kevin a while ago, and it's something we should discuss in the RFC.
Yeah. Ethan said building it on cloud events. Okay, that seems like a very concrete answer that I could live with. It also seems like I think it's the new standard that kind of combines all different queuing systems, as I understand, right? So it seems like a reasonable thing to do. The cloud events system, or the cloud events spec, I think. Yeah, that probably also means we build it separate first, right? Because the other notification system uses the other eventing system, and potentially we could deprecate the email system at some point and move it into the cloud events version to just avoid having, at some point a third eventing system. Because for me, maybe as a reader, as feedback, it was somewhat confusing why we have 3 different event systems and like which one to use. And there was a bit of a startup overhead to even figuring out what's happening. But yeah, if cloud events is the new way to go, I think that's the information that we needed. Cool.
Amazing. Looking forward to this RFC.
I think Fabio
as
is
you're
working in
not.
prototyping, so it's all Fabio. I will just be the writer in this case.
We're all in it together. Thank you, both of you, for working on this.
I felt like an archaeologist trying to figure out which one to use there.
Yeah. It all started out small, one notification system. Then, hey, have this other use case, and here we are. All right. We had a full agenda today, and I was afraid that we'd run over, but if no one else has anything else to discuss, we can get a few minutes back of our lives back.
Thanks, Robert, for contributing. Very appreciated.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Robert, this is amazing. Let's get this cranking.
Thanks a lot for listening.
Sure. Feel free to reach out if you need anything. We try to help.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, maybe
Also,
get
if you
back
have
to this on the
questions
Slack
about
channel.
Flyte on GKE, chances are we ran into it.
Cool. I guess I'll see you back in 2 weeks. And don't hesitate to reach out on Slack and email or however else you want. All right.
Cool. See you in 2 weeks.
See you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.